It's day 10 on the Traitors, and after last night's banishment, Vi came in 10th place as the group banished yet another faithful. With a murder taking place, there will only be 8 players in the game. Usually, this is really bad for the faithful since 4 of them remain, but luckily for them, the traitors are gunning for each other. Will a traitor finally go home tonight? We will soon find out. For now, we have to find out who got murdered between Mari, Clara, and Colleen. Did Brandon side with Gianna and Krista to murder Mari, or did he side with Theo by going to a random draw to hopefully take out one of Colleen or Clara? Entering the breakfast room first is Russell, and he sits down and looks down the table, viewing the emptiness from the absence of chairs. In confessional, Russell admits it's pretty shocking to see so little chairs in the breakfast room now. They are 10 days into this game, and only 8 people remain. Hopefully, 9 if the traitors attack someone with a shield, though pretty unlikely. Back in the room, Theo enters next and Russell says good morning to him. Theo says that he's the only person he can even trust and rely on at this point. Not even Holly seems to like them anymore. Russell thinks Holly will get over last night's loss. They didn't do anything against her. She's just in denial that her friends are faithful. Theo says that Krista and Gianna really got into her head last night. Gianna clearly has been planting seeds against them for a while now. Russell agrees and thinks their safest vote tonight will be Krista or Gianna, depending on who the group would be more willing to eliminate. In confessional with Theo, he says that one of Gianna or Krista will certainly go home tonight. If not, he himself is probably going home, which he can't let happen this deep into the game. He needs to pull off a very brilliant move against them, and there's so many approaches he can take to convince the others that those two are working together as traitors. Back in the room, Gianna comes in next, and the room is quiet. She sits down and minds her own business, not comfortable to talk to either of the other two. In confessional, Gianna admits that she has no business talking to the people she is targeting. Theo is her prime target, and once he goes, she will have to target Russell since he's her last big obstacle in the game. She needs to rely on her relationships now, especially with Holly. Hopefully, the seeds she planted in Holly's head lately will convince her to vote out Theo tonight. Back in the room, Mari comes into the room next, and they all say good morning unamusingly. Mari sits down, and in Theo's confessional, he smiles because he got his way with the murder. Last night, Brandon sided with him and decided to keep Mari, going to a random draw for murder. Mari still had a 50% chance of getting murdered, but the traitor's gods were on his side it seems. Back in the room, Gianna tells Mari she's happy to see her. She's a super interesting player, one that could actually help the group find the first traitor. Mari thanks her and says that she feels like the target on her back is shrinking, thank God. She never got the feeling of safety because everyone would jump her, but now people aren't looking at her anymore, and it should remain that way since she's really not that suspicious. The 4 then hear footsteps at the door, and Krista enters the room next. Gianna and Mari say good morning to her, and Russell decides to also say good morning. Though, Theo is completely silent. As Krista walks by Gianna quietly mouths to her and Mari that Theo is very pissed. Mari's eyes widen as she can clearly tell from Theo's energy this morning. In confessional with Krista, she admits she's disappointed that her and Gianna did not get their way, and she's especially concerned about Brandon now. He's clearly siding with Theo, which could mean he's more comfortable moving on with him rather than her and Gianna. Either way, she has to work on Mari and get her on side, along with the other faithful, though not including Russell. Russell will stick by Theo no matter what. Back in the room, Mari says that they are still waiting for Clara, Brandon, Colleen, and Holly. Russell wonders if Holly quit since she was super upset leading to bedtime. Krista says they'll soon find out, though she hopes Holly is doing alright. They then watch as Holly enters the room next, confirming she hasn't quit. Holly says good morning with a frown on her face, and in confessional, she admits that she's really tired after last night's events. She was just really upset that she didn't stick with her gut. She stood up for Russell, which was clearly the wrong move for the faithful. She's fully convinced that him, Theo, or even Gianna are traitors. Those three have been the closest to her in here, and now she has to start looking at them as suspects to change up her game plan. It's the only way she'll find a traitor. Back in the room, everyone watches as Brandon enters the room next, meaning Clara and Colleen remain as the possible murder victims. Mari says that she's not surprised that one of them died. Neither went for the shield. Russell says that he's confused why Clara didn't volunteer for the shield. She even voted Fee instead of sticking to her claims against him and Theo. Krista says that it was clearly the wrong move because Fee was faithful. They could have taken a bolder shot that would likely be correct, but it didn't happen. Theo rolls his eyes but decides not to comment. They all hear footsteps at the door, and they all watch ahead, wondering if it's Clara or Colleen. Clara then enters the room, confirming that Colleen has been murdered as she couldn't earn the shield yesterday. Clara finds out Colleen was murdered, and she stands still, very saddened by the result. Mari says that this kill was pretty predictable. The traitors have been smart since day one, leaving no trace behind. Clara sits down and says that she's really sad to see Colleen go. Brandon tells Clara that they can at least be happy that they weren't played by her since they were both trusted her quite a bit. Clara nods and says out loud that she will miss Colleen. In a flashback, Colleen is in the confessional room, finding out about her murder at night. Colleen sighs but remains smiling. She had so much fun this season despite the faithful sucking. If she had to guess, the traitors could be Russell, Theo, Krista, and maybe even Mari. All she knows is that Holly and Clara are the most trustworthy, so she will root for them if they are faithful. Colleen admits her empath abilities did not really work this season, but perhaps this stressful environment was the reason for that. She needs to be more relaxed in order for them to work. Back in the breakfast room, Clara says that she actually wants to know more about Krista and Gianna's thoughts for accusing Theo last night at the last minute. Krista says that she still stands by the points she made against Theo. He has been in such a perfect position all season, and people have been ignoring the red flags he signaled. It's no surprise since he has such a cool and collective personality. Theo smirks and says that he personally thinks her and Gianna are both traitors who felt threatened by him in the game since nobody wanted to ever vote him out. Plus, he volunteered for the shield, so they didn't want to risk murdering him in the case he had won. If anything, people should question why Gianna has gotten so far into this game if she has been one of the friendliest people in here. For the most part, the really friendly people got murdered already. Yet, she's still here. He just doesn't see a reason why she never got murdered. Gianna says that there's a lot that goes behind each murder, and nobody will really know what unless they are traitors themselves. There are probably many reasons the traitors want to keep her around, but she can't say what it is since she's not a traitor herself. Russell says that he just finds it fascinating that those two were super coordinated in their attack on Theo. It came out of nowhere, as if it was a plan to pressure the faithful into voting him last minute. Krista says that it has been discussed before, and Brandon can back that up. Theo looks over at Brandon, waiting to see what he'll say. Brandon then says that they only brought up Theo's name once to him, and it was 2 days ago. Krista immediately calls that out as a lie since they spoke about it with each other yesterday. Gianna was with them too, and Gianna also backs it up herself. She doesn't know why Brandon is lying to protect Theo now. Brandon says that he doesn't recall having a serious chat about Theo being a traitor yesterday. Krista laughs and says that he's very obviously lying right now. In confessional with Mari, she admits that there's so much going on right now and so much new information coming out. She never thought Brandon would be involved in this drama. It came out of nowhere. Back in the room, Gianna says that it's really weird that he's lying to protect Theo. She's starting to understand why, though. It's just confirming even more that they are both traitors now. Theo tells Gianna that she's just all talk. She never came up with her own plans before apart from the Gabby plan which ended up failing. Her and Krista worked together for that one too. Krista then brings up how if she was a traitor, she would have attacked one of him, Russell, or Holly to cut their trio, but that clearly hasn't happened yet. In confessional, Krista says that Theo is further sinking his game with the claims he is making. She knows what to say in response to his accusations, and it's hopefully going to stick into people's minds that the big three are still in this game, and they are just down to 8 people. In another confessional with Theo, he says that he's not worried at all going into today's banishment. He feels like he has a support system backing him, and he's proud of Brandon and Russell the most. He just needs Holly to stick by him and then one of Clara or Mari. Mari is his best chance at this point since she's the biggest wild card, while Clara has already said Russell's name yesterday. With the tense breakfast drama finally ended, the players have time to roam around the castle before the next faithful crown ceremony. Outside, Krista talks with Clara and Mari, asking them for their thoughts on the breakfast drama. Clara says that it makes more sense to her that Russell or Theo are traitors. She thinks at least one of them are. The other could be a faithful. She's just more convinced it's Russell at this point because there is so much more going against him than Theo. Krista thinks Theo is more likely to be a traitor based on the points she has already brought up. Mari says that she personally trusts the two of them, Gianna and Brandon, the most. Krista tells her not to trust Brandon though since he clearly lied this morning about never hearing Theo's name yesterday. Mari says that she's taking things step by step, and right now, her main focus is to vote out Russell or Theo. In confessional, Mari feels like Clara and Gianna are the most trustworthy. She actually doesn't trust Krista whatsoever and believes her and Russell are working together. Hence, she flipped the vote onto Theo last second to hopefully save Russell last night. They said good morning to each other with no problem, but her and Theo did not. That should be a dead giveaway that it's her. In the gym room, Theo talks privately with Holly, trying to repair their relationship that randomly got destroyed for reasons out of his control. He tells Holly that he feels hurt right now that she's not trusting him like she did before. He didn't even do anything to hurt her. Holly says that it's not about how she personally feels about him. She's thinking about the game, and right now, she feels like the traitor has to be between him and Russell. In confessional, Holly says that she feels like tonight's banishment has to be on one of her friends in the game. She personally would like to see Russell or Gianna go, but if Theo gets more heat than the other two, she'll side with that plan. She needs to stop trusting people so easily. Back in the room, Theo tells Holly that he still feels very hurt by her because she was going around telling people last night that she can't trust him or Russell. They didn't do anything against her to make themselves untrustworthy. Holly apologizes for that, but she isn't convinced that they are 100% faithful. Theo says that it's fine if she's not 100% on them being faithful, but she also shouldn't be 100% on anyone since literally anyone could be a traitor right now. Gianna then enters the room unexpectedly and is surprised to see Holly and Theo in the room. She says that she was actually looking around the castle to find where everyone is, but couldn't find anyone until now. In confessional, Gianna says that she had this concerned look on her face when she entered the gym room to find Holly and Theo together. Theo is already trying his hardest to pull Holly back onto his side, so she has to break it up and put more heat onto Theo. Back in the room, Gianna smiles and tells Theo that she knows what he's doing right now. He's trying to get into Holly's brain again. Theo tells her it's none of her business. They were talking about their problems which doesn't involve her. He doesn't understand why she is so desperate to involve herself in their chats, though perhaps it's because she's doing whatever she can to get him voted out tonight. Gianna shrugs and says that she made it clear already that she would like to see him banished, so she's just making sure people don't fall for his trickery. Theo says game on then and cannot wait to see what she comes up with at tonight's banishment. Gianna says the same and tells him she'll be ready for whatever ammunition comes her direction. At the front entrance of the castle, Mari, Clara, and Russell chat. Russell asks the two ladies if they really think he's a traitor, and Clara admits she's still onto him. Russell sighs and says he doesn't know what to say to convince them that he's a faithful. He doesn't think either of them are traitors, so he has no reason to go against them. Mari asks him who he thinks are traitors, and would like to hear multiple names from him. Russell says that he's very sure it's Krista and Gianna. As for the third traitor, it's likely Brandon based on process of elimination. The other option is Theo if he's on the same team as Krista and Gianna and they are having a traitor war. Clara finds this interesting and says that she wouldn't be opposed to voting out Krista tonight, but there's not enough information right now to convince her it's Krista over him and Theo. Russell once again sighs and says he'll do what he can to convince them he's not a traitor. They still have a chance to win as faithful, but it'll take a lot of effort from all of them, especially himself as he's on the chopping block tonight. In confessional, Clara still feels confident that Russell is a traitor and would like to vote him out tonight. However, she's also wary of Krista and Theo. She just knows she has to get this next banishment right, or else the traitors probably have the numbers once they are down to 6 people. As the day goes on, it's a full-on battle for power between Gianna and Krista, and then Brandon and Theo. However, it's time for the game chats to come to a halt for now as we get into the final Faithful Crown ceremony of the season. This is the final chance for the Faithful to prevent a murder which could get them an extra banishment and one less murder. Everyone finds out that today, everyone will be eligible to vote for whoever they'd like to see get the shield. They just can't vote for themselves. Once again, if the vote ties, nobody will get a shield, though nobody will know about the result. In confessional, Brandon says that he hopes people vote him for the shield since he feels like he has been pretty trustworthy lately. Nobody has really said his name apart from Krista and Gianna, but that was expected since he turned his back on them last night and this morning. Everyone then votes in secret for who they'd like to grant a shield to. In confessional, Theo says that he feels okay voting Holly for the shield. She is the most likely to get it anyway. In another confessional with Russell, he also claims he wants Holly to get the shield. With Mari in confessional, she says that Gianna is the most trustworthy player right now in her eyes, so she wants her to live another day in this game. In another confessional with Krista, she says that Gianna is obviously getting her vote. With Gianna, she says that she has to throw her vote onto Russell so she herself can potentially get the shield. And in another confessional with Holly, she says that she would like to vote Clara for the shield since she can't trust anyone she is really close to in the game. Clara is the best choice right now since she has been a pretty consistent player who has provided pretty useful insights throughout the season. With all the votes in, everyone stays seated, feeling very heavy energy in the area as they all know tonight's banishment will be ruthless. In confessional with Gianna, she finds out she won the shield and is speechless. She can't believe this worked out for her and people trust her more than Theo. This is a perfect chance for her to take him down. He has nothing on her now. She just needs to hope Krista doesn't get targeted instead tonight. With the final Faithful Crown ceremony complete, Gianna has the final shield of the season, meaning unfortunately for the Faithful, one will be murdered tonight. However, they still have a chance to get a traitor out, especially with the amount of drama within its faction. Inside the bar room, Brandon, Russell, and Theo discuss tonight's banishment. Russell admits he's probably going home tonight since Clara is still gunning for him. Gianna and Krista will likely jump along with it since they'll do anything to get their way, knowing they are traitors. Theo says it's not over yet. They can still save the Faithful if they convince Holly and Mari to vote Krista, or maybe even Gianna. Earlier, Gianna confronted him when he had a chat with Holly, so maybe he can convince Holly that Gianna is trying way too hard with the numbers being so low. Gianna would need to vote out one more Faithful, resulting in a guaranteed traitor steamroll. Plus, Holly has said many times now that she doesn't want to trust Gianna since she has been friends with her for a while now, so that can be used against Gianna tonight. Russell says he's on board since he knows Gianna is a traitor anyway, and Brandon also jumps along since her and Krista lied this morning about this made-up conversation they had with him yesterday about voting out Theo. Krista then enters the room, breaking up the conversation. In confessional, Theo confirms that the target is locked in. Gianna has to be the one voted out before Krista in order to get Holly back onto his side. If Holly votes out Gianna and sees she was a traitor all along, she'll hopefully still be on his side to vote out Krista the next day. Clara, Mari, and Holly chat meanwhile, and they all agree that they aren't voting each other tonight. Holly says her vote is either going on to Russell, Theo, or Gianna. Clara says she's mostly keen to vote Russell out tonight, so they have a common target there. Mari says she'd rather vote out Krista because she's a much safer option for them. There was a whole portion of this game where she was dead silent. She is a whole different person now. Super competitive unlike before. In confessional, Mari feels like Krista needs to go tonight. It's super evident she's a traitor, but nobody seems to want to vote her out yet, which could be a mistake. If they vote out even one faithful now, the faithful lose. Krista won't be able to get voted out at that point. Back with the group, Holly feels like Russell is the safer move, and Clara agrees. She apologizes to Mari and says that she respects her opinion. She just doesn't see the whole picture yet regarding Krista. Outside, Krista and Gianna quickly fill each other in on the plan tonight. Gianna confirms it's still Theo going home tonight. People voted her for the shield. She has it. Krista immediately smiles and congratulates her. This is huge for them because that means people trust them and would rather vote out Theo before them. In confessional, Gianna says that she won't let her guard down at all. Just because she got the shield doesn't mean that Krista is safe. She needs to ensure the faithful vote for Theo tonight. This vote will be pivotal for her. Krista then confirms with Gianna that she's her final two. They need each other, and Gianna agrees. She promises she isn't cutting her. However, Brandon will need to go eventually since he flipped on them. Krista tells her not to worry since she planned on that already. Brandon snaked them, so he'll pay either tomorrow or the day after. No rush, though. With banishment slowly approaching, Russell and Brandon campaign to Holly and Mari, trying to take their shot against Gianna. Russell tells the two ladies that him, Brandon, and Theo agreed that Gianna is the best vote tonight since he has more suspicion on her than Krista. Mari is confused, claiming that Krista should be more suspicious than Gianna. If anything, Gianna is nowhere near on her suspect list. She in fact voted for her to get the shield earlier. Brandon tells Mari to watch out though. He knows Gianna is a traitor based on the lie she and Krista made up at breakfast, and in his eyes, Gianna is more dangerous than Krista. They can easily vote Krista out tomorrow, but with Gianna, she could get into people's heads. She's really good at socializing. In confessional, Brandon says that Gianna has to go tonight. If they try voting out Krista, Holly might not even side with them and will instead side with Gianna. Secondly, Gianna has a better chance of convincing Mari, Holly, and Clara tomorrow that she's a faithful, resulting in Theo probably getting voted out. With Krista, she's already a huge suspect, so if Gianna gets revealed as a traitor tonight, Krista will most definitely go home next. Back with the group, Holly says that she's open to voting out Gianna, but she's still very wary of Russell. Russell tells her she needs to trust him on this vote. It's super clear that Gianna and Krista are working together as traitors. Brandon literally backs this up. In confessional, Holly feels like she's the swing vote tonight. She hates how these men are grouping up to get her onto their side, but they are so convincing at the same time. She doesn't trust Gianna, so voting her out is definitely an option right now. However, she's still very concerned about Russell. This decision might be a last-minute one because she can't figure out who is more suspicious between Russell and Gianna. As the moon starts to rise, it's time for the roundtable discussion to commence. All 8 players are seated, And as a reminder, all 8 will vote tonight. With a guaranteed murder tonight, the faithful need to get this next vote correct. The players are now allowed to speak, so Theo says he'd like to go first. He wants to quickly remind people that he's still claiming Krista and Gianna are both traitors. They double-teamed against him last night and failed when they really should have talked with more people prior to the banishment. Then, they made up a lie to throw Brandon under the bus to get the women on their side for tonight's banishment. That's all he'd like to mention for now. Krista then speaks up to defend herself, claiming that she never made up a lie to throw Brandon under the bus and work with the women. She stated the truth, which was that she, Gianna, and Brandon had a discussion about voting out Theo prior to the banishment. However, he denied having that conversation, making it evident to her that he's working with Theo as traitors. Clara asks Krista if she could clarify when she started feeling suspicious of Theo, and Krista says it really sprouted ever since Franco went home. She saw how quick Theo was to throw out Fee's name since he was such an easy vote after his mess-up. They all found out he was faithful, so it makes so much sense to her now that Theo is a traitor. He's most likely teamed up with Brandon and Russell. Theo says he doesn't want to get too technical, but he has to mention that there has to be at least one woman as a traitor. Gianna asks him if he's the game maker, and Theo obviously says no. Gianna tells him he has no right to bring that up if he's just a player. Nobody can know how many traitors there are, or how equal it is on gender, race, and other factors. For all they know, it could have been a random draw. Clara agrees with Gianna and says that Theo really shouldn't assume that gender is at play here. Theo raises his hands and apologizes, but still stands that Krista and Gianna are both traitors. Clara then speaks up to make her point against Russell. She says she has been on to him for a while now, especially after she lost Winston. For some reason, he always finds the numbers to survive. It's very convenient, hence why she believes he's the safest vote for the faithful tonight. Gianna and Krista both stare at Clara, and Gianna tells Clara that it's probably safer to vote Theo since everyone already knows it's between Krista and Theo tonight. One of them is 100% a traitor based on common knowledge, and of course, she herself knows it's Theo. If Clara thinks it is Russell, she should vote Theo with her. Mari then says that she's not convinced yet on this vote because she personally believes Krista is the safest vote tonight. She clearly sees how she's playing this game. She stays quiet at the right times to avoid any heat placed onto her. At least Theo and Russell have gotten a lot of heat this season, usually from Krista herself. Krista then says that her claim doesn't really make sense because there were times where she didn't vote in the majority and Theo did. People need to remember that there is a trio that has never been touched this season. It doesn't make Holly a traitor, of course, but her association to Russell and Theo would of course keep her alive as a number. Thankfully, Holly is starting to see right through their bullcrap. Theo then looks at Holly and publicly asks her if she still thinks he's a traitor. Holly says that it's just really weird how her, Russell, and Theo are still alive despite everyone wanting them out for a while. However, it could just be a ploy from the traitors since they assumed one of them would get banished for a long time now. Russell immediately jumps in to agree with Holly, telling her that the traitors have tried to vote them out in multiple occasions and failed. The two people who tried the most were Krista and Gianna. In fact, Gianna was the ringleader to split up Gabby from Franco and Theo, another looming trio in the game. Theo says that he's pretty certain Gianna and Krista were intimidated by him from the start, hence why they tried waiting for the right time to snipe him out of the game, and they were quite close yesterday. Gianna shakes her head nervously, telling everyone that Theo and Russell are grasping at straws at this point to turn people on her and Krista. They need to remember who has had the most power in this game. Obviously, Theo, followed by Russell, who is his companion. The discussion is then immediately stopped since time has run out, so the players must now vote for who they'd like to banish. Everyone begins to write a name down on their slates, and in confessional with Russell, he says he's praying to God he doesn't get voted out. This roundtable took so much effort, and it would suck for it to go down the drain. In another confessional with Krista, she says that her and Gianna did really good work tonight to get the target onto Theo's back. However, Theo made really rough points against the two of them that could be the reason people flip on them. It really comes down to what Holly, Mari, and Clara decide. The votes are all in, and Clara is asked to start them off by revealing her vote. She breathes out and says that this discussion was really intense, so making this decision was very difficult for her. She still stands by her theory that Russell is a traitor, but due to the common targets tonight, she has to vote Theo, who is the next best option after Russell. Gianna is next to reveal her vote, so she says she obviously voted for Theo tonight. He is very manipulative and he really was the boss battle for the faithful tonight. Once he is picked off, the rest of this game should go smoothly for the faithful, but it's not over until it's officially over. Russell is next, and he reveals his vote for Gianna, claiming that she is a social queen, one of the best social games in the entire season. If they don't take her out now, she probably wins this whole game with her traitor team. Krista then goes next, and she reveals her vote for Theo. She says it's very clear it's between her, Gianna, and Theo tonight, and she obviously doesn't have any reason to vote Gianna. Plus, she was one of the first people to officially accuse him. We're now at 3 votes Theo, and 1 vote Gianna. For votes to go, Brandon then goes next, and he says that these votes are always based on gameplay as he's trying to catch traitors. He loves Gianna to death, but he has to vote her as he thinks she's a traitor. Holly is asked to go next, and she stays quiet for a moment. She says she doesn't know what she's doing half the time, including tonight. She struggled with her decision because she didn't know if she should vote Theo or vote Gianna. She ended up going with her gut because she said she wouldn't let other people convince her of anything. Her gut tells her it's Gianna, therefore she voted for her tonight. We're now at a tie with 3 votes Gianna, and 3 votes Theo. It's just down to Mari and Theo. Mari is asked to go next, and she reveals that she wanted to vote Krista tonight, but since that's off the table, she had to go with the next best thing, which was the person who has been defending her the hardest lately, and that's Gianna. She feels more comfortable voting her than Theo because Theo isn't the one defending Krista. Theo is the last vote, and he says he obviously voted Gianna since he knows for a fact she is a traitor. With that, it's official. With 5 votes, Gianna is the next player banished from the castle. She is asked to head to the front to reveal her role, so she gets out of her seat. Krista covers her face, unsure how to feel about this vote. Clara meanwhile is flabbergasted and looks at Holly and Mari, feeling like they lied to her all along. Gianna stands at the front and breathes out intensely. She says that she came into this game wanting to be herself, and she really was. She loves to smile, make others happy, and of course, play this game hard. She feels like she accomplished all 3 things, though sadly she ended up losing this game at a very critical point in the game. She says she loves most people here, and some people she's a bit bitter at. Regardless, she congratulates them all because they have found their first traitor of the season. Everyone immediately gasps and start to celebrate. Holly jumps out of her seat as she screams, and everyone else either claps or shouts in celebration. Gianna waves goodbye to the group and heads out, leaving Krista and Clara as the most stunned reactions in the room. Mari says well played to Gianna since she played them all so hard the last 10 days. Theo says he told them she was dangerous. He's glad they listened. Clara says that she's obviously happy they got this vote right, but she's just surprised it ended up being Gianna. In confessional, Holly is elated that the faithful got their first traitor. After 10 days, they can finally celebrate after a banishment. In another confessional with Krista, she's very disappointed that she lost the battle. Theo and Brandon won, and now they have the upper hand against her. Well played to them, but she won't back down yet. In another confessional with Theo, He smiles and nods silently since he won the war against Krista and Gianna. He says that Krista is next, and his plans will work once again, just like tonight. With the faithful finally getting their way, they all talk about the latest banishment the rest of the night. Clara talks with Russell and Brandon in the library, telling them that she's genuinely shocked and confused by this last banishment. She really didn't expect Gianna to go, let alone be a traitor. She voted her to get the shield as well. Brandon says he knew all along Gianna was lying, and of course Krista is tied to that lie. He's ready to vote her out tomorrow. She's a dead woman walking. In confessional, Brandon admits that he wants to be at the end with Theo, but of course, he wants the money all to himself. If they reach final two, he plans to steal the money and convince Theo he'll share it. He just needs to continue pleasing Theo for that to happen. At the moment, Kristen needs to go tomorrow, and then hopefully Russell goes before the finale so Theo doesn't use him as a number against him. Back in the room, Clara says that the numbers just don't add up. She assumes they have 2 more traitors, but if Krista is one of them, she wonders who the second one is. Russell asks her if she thinks Mari is the other since she flipped, and Clara says she doesn't know at the moment. She needs time to process everything before she throws out another name. In confessional, Clara feels like she's very dumb compared to everyone else. It's a horrible feeling to be one of the only ones to not vote a traitor out, especially after waiting 10 days for it to happen. People will now think she's a traitor for voting Theo rather than Gianna, so she's probably going to be on an island the remainder of the game. Meanwhile, Mari and Theo chat in the hallway, and Theo thanks her for trusting him at the vote. She jokes that she's still mad suspicious of him, and they both laugh. Mari says that it's clear Krista is going home tomorrow. She's just unsure who else could be a traitor. In confessional, Mari feels like she still can't fully trust Russell and Theo. It's very possible there was a war within the Traitors team. Gianna and Krista were up against Russell and Theo for 2 days now, so it seems probable that they are all traitors. She doesn't know how to approach tomorrow's banishment since voting out Krista could mean that Russell, Theo, and Holly team up against everyone else. Maybe it's better to vote out one of Russell or Theo tomorrow just to be safe, and she can definitely pull that off with Krista, Clara, and Brandon as her numbers. She still has a chance to win with the faithful. She just needs to play out the rest of these vote-offs smartly because the game can still be lost. Back with Theo and Mari, Theo says that he's pretty convinced Krista and Clara are the last 2 traitors. Clara randomly flipped her vote onto him instead of voting Russell like she said she would. It very much felt like she knew she couldn't get her way of getting Russell out, so she stuck to her teammates. Mari doesn't know if that's actually the case since she still doesn't see Clara being a traitor, but nevertheless, they at least know Krista is for sure a traitor. As bedtime approaches, the players say goodbye to one another as it's the last night for one person. Nobody knows for sure where the shield lies, though we know that Gianna had it, and it's out of play. In confessional with Krista, she says that she has to put pressure onto Brandon and Theo tonight in the turret. She can't and won't let them have their way. Unfortunately, they will probably overpower the decision since they have the majority on the team. They will probably murder whoever they want, even if it's not in her best interest. In the Traitors' turret, the 3 remaining traitors stand still with their hoodies on, and then they unveil them. Krista says wow out loud, still shaken by the last vote. Theo says that Gianna made a huge mistake playing super aggressive the last 2 days. It cost her the game. Krista asks Theo not to dogpile even more crap onto Gianna, especially since she's not here to defend herself. Theo says he can say whatever he wants, especially because the 2 of them targeted him first. Krista says that it's obvious he was planning the same against them all along, but Theo says she's wrong. Brandon then confirms that tonight's kill will probably be between Mari, Holly, and Clara. Russell would be a very weird kill. Theo agrees and says he's not up to kill Russell. He also wouldn't kill Holly only because she could have the shield. Krista then says that Gianna actually got the shield. She told her after the ceremony. Theo says he honestly doesn't believe anything she says at this point, so he'd rather not take that risk. Brandon feels like Holly would be the best choice, even if they don't end up killing her. He tells Theo that no matter what, everyone is probably voting Krista out anyway. Theo rubs his chin, thinking carefully about it. Krista rolls her eyes and says out loud that she hates it here. Theo tells Krista she put herself into this position so she shouldn't complain, but Krista tells him to shut his arrogant ass up. Theo smiles and then looks at Brandon, telling him that he's willing to kill either Holly or Mari. It makes more sense for them to keep Clara as the final 5 boot. Brandon agrees and asks him what he thinks about Mari. Theo says that Mari might not vote Clara at final 5 since she told him that she's not convinced it's her. He doesn't know what that really means, though. Brandon thinks Holly is still their best option because she's harder to vote out down the line. Krista then chimes in and says she'd be willing to place her opinion into this murder if they are at a standstill. She has an idea of who she'd murder between Mari and Holly. Brandon and Theo reluctantly agree to this, allowing Krista to be the decider.